I've watched this serial many times because I've watched this season many times because it's such a powerful, exciting season. It's such an iconic season of Doctor Who. And I never particularly disliked it, but I also didn't particularly like it. But there's nothing like deciding to do a review to really help you look inside yourself and discover whether you think something is just shit. Like in the previous serial, this one begins with Harry and the Doctor and Sarah just sort of wandering around, not doing anything. But when it's very exciting in a mysterious spaceship, it is less exciting on the fields of Devon. Since we're still in the future, where Ark in Space was set, we have more people from the future, and again, they have different accents. We love this idea that in the future, accents will change, speech will change. And these guys actually, they stick to their like weird way of talking, I think, better than the people on Nervous Station. And they're all South African, but also white, because in the future we will all be white South African. That's the final incarnation of the British Empire. I feel like you could make a whole story based around the communication problems you would have with someone speaking a futuristic version of English and you only being able to speak modern English. But this story doesn't do that. There's a trick that Sontarans have. When you do a Sontaran story, they do it in the David Tennant era, they do it in the John Pertwee era, where the Sontaran walks around, he's got this helmet on and you're thinking, oh wow, space alien, how exciting. And when he takes the helmet off, you're like, oh my god, his head is the same shape as the helmet. You don't like, imagine if a human astronaut took off their helmet and their head was the same shape. That would be really bizarre and unexpected. And that's a little trick that you get with Sontarans. Also with Jadoon, you know? The big helmets, it's a rhino. It's very exciting. But this story hides the Sontaran until the last minute, so you don't really get that exciting moment of like, oh, his head is a potato. And Sarah Jane's like, oh my god, it's the exact same Sontaran that I met last time. It's not, Sarah. It's not the exact same Sontaran. She even says, she's like, you're identical. Sarah, they're not identical. You ate a lot of potatoes in between then and now, and you just get them mixed up. You know what that's called? Racism. And you know, Sontarans are a clone race and they don't really have gender. They're actually non-binary. Steyr is like non-binary representation. And so are the Daleks and the Cybermen. Oh my god, Doctor Who has been doing non-binary representation for years. If the crystal gems in Steven Universe are non-binary, then the fucking Sontarans and the Daleks are non-binary too, guys. Everything just feels so bland. It's the set, like you want a Doctor Who story that's set all outside without like crappy cardboard sets, right? But it doesn't, this one doesn't really work. There's a scene about 4 minutes into the second episode where the robot comes along, and it's really scary, right? Because this robot is terrifying. It is a monstrosity, absolutely horrific. And everyone's like, oh no, a robot! And they start shooting the robot, but it's all very quiet. There's no music playing in the background. The robot isn't saying anything, the people aren't saying anything, it's just pew, pew, pew. And then it's only the last few seconds of the scene that a tiny bit of music plays, and it's like, you wanted us to fall asleep, didn't you? And this robot, you know, we've had this robot, probably not an inexpensive robot to build, you know, it went along on wheels, it went sort of up and down like this. The Doctor just sonics it and it just dies immediately. That's it. That's how easy this fucking robot was to defeat. And this isn't like the robot from the episode Robot, which was built on Earth by simple Earthlings. This was a robot from Sontar, another world, with like aliens who like are a clone race and have been traveling the stars for thousands of years and fighting a space war for thousands of years, and their robot is shitter than the robot in Robot. So, you know, the real tension in this story comes from the fact we've got one Sontaran, and his job, or their job, if you will, is to analyze humans. So he's like, what happens if I drown a human? Do they die? What happens if I starve a human to death? Will they die? Meanwhile, the entire Sontaran battle fleet is waiting on Sontar or whatever, and they call him on Skype and they say, Star, are you done experimenting on the humans? And he's like, no, I haven't done it yet. I need to put a weight on them and see if they crush to death when crushed to death. And the spaceman is like, Star, you need to hurry up. We've got the entire, like, they're all waiting. They're ready to go. They're in their seats. They've got their seatbelts on. They're ready to go. Can you just hurry up? And Star's like, I really need to squish the human just to see if they're squishable. Because it's only by finding out if they're squishable that they reckon they can... Most things are squishable. Most things are squishable. Humans even look squishy. That's like one of our main features. Also, didn't Sontarans meet humans for the first time in like the 13th century with when the Third Doctor and Sarah met Lynx? Like, they've known humans for a really, really long time and they're just like, don't know if they're squishy. I don't know what happens if you drown them to death. They might live. And you know, with Sarah and Harry, like, I do like Harry. I genuinely like Harry. I have affection for Harry. But like, at first it's like, oh, Harry doesn't even know what a force field is. And Sarah's like, oh, it's a force field, Harry. And he's like, oh, watch your old bean. And she's like, oh, it's a force field. And then the Doctor's like, okay, I need someone to go into the Sontaran spaceship and fuck with the machinery and take a thing out. Do I send the one who knows what a force field is, the one who's been travelling throughout all of time and space for like a good few months at least? Or do I send the man who thinks that women can't be leaders? Maybe the old-timey man has the most, brain power to do the thing. That makes sense. Meanwhile, I'll challenge the Sontaran to a little fighty fight. If you can't tell, I'm a bit disappointed with this episode. And I think Ark in Space being so good makes this one all the more shit. And then you have the one after this. We all know what the one after this is, don't we? Are you guys going to watch along with me? I think you should watch along with me because I'm going to do Genesis of the Daleks next, which is a thrill and just highlights how shite the Sontaran experiment truly is. If you've watched Sontaran experiment, let me know what you think in the comments. I'll tell you if you're wrong. Please like and subscribe. Also check out my Patreon and please consider supporting me. Also, I have a Kickstarter going at the moment for my graphic novel Hugged, which is the tale of my 20s mostly, and what it's like being a weird non-binary bisexual in the modern age. So please consider supporting that and helping me print copies. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time with Genesis of the Daleks.